Phoenix, the vibrant city under the scorching sun of the American Southwest, is famous for its modern neighborhoods, towering skyscrapers, and being the heart of a booming economy. But behind its glittering exterior, a major issue is becoming increasingly severe: the homelessness crisis. Despite Phoenix being a city with a $2 trillion economy, where luxurious buildings and bustling commercial areas rise up like mushrooms after rain, many residents still struggle to survive in makeshift tents, cars, or barren lands lacking basic resources. This is a sad paradox. Phoenix's development cannot keep pace with the need for affordable housing for the poor. With a strong economy, Phoenix should be a place where people can find new opportunities. However, in reality, thousands of people still lack stable housing and must live in conditions that could not be worse. While upscale residential areas continue to spring up, the downtown area and Phoenix's suburbs are witnessing an ever-growing number of homeless people. The story of Phoenix is not just one of development, but also one of injustice and poverty quietly seeping into the fabric of the city. In today's video, we will not visit the majestic scenes that tour guides always want to show you, but instead, we will delve into the reality of homelessness in Phoenix, looking at the underlying causes of this problem and the impact it has not only on the homeless but also on the community and the city's economy. Stay tuned, because this story is not just about the homeless, but about all of us. Phoenix, a city yearning to rise amidst the scorching desert, where the sun seems to burn every corner of the street, faces a heartbreaking paradox. Behind the prosperity of a rapidly growing economy, a homelessness crisis silently unfolds, impossible to ignore. While the towering buildings shine with lights and modern commercial areas with bright neon signs attract investors, the poor hide in the shadows of the city. They, the left behinds, are gradually losing their shelter, living rough in makeshift tents, old cars, or even in the desolate corners of the streets. According to data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, by early 2025, more than 9,400 homeless people had been recorded in Phoenix and Maricopa County. Among them, sadly, a significant portion consists of children and elderly people who have no choice in the matter. They are people who cannot find protection, who have no roof to raise themselves up. This number is not just a cold statistic. It is the story of a city caught in the whirlwind of development, but forgetting the poor who are being pushed to the margins of society. What has led to this increase? What seemed like signs of prosperity, rising home prices, the boom in real estate and tourism, have turned out to be the causes that make it impossible for thousands of poor families to keep up with the city's development. Affordable housing seems like a distant dream, as luxury real estate projects pop up like mushrooms after rain, attracting vast amounts of investment but offering no space for the working poor, those who work tirelessly but still cannot keep a roof over their heads. Behind the luxury buildings, in the shadowy streets of the central areas, the homeless are struggling with poverty, job insecurity, and a social system that has never protected them. They are the ghosts of the city of voiceless, without the kind of help strong enough to change their fate. And the lack of affordable housing and support services has created a harsh reality. Those who live on the fringes, no matter how hard they try, can only watch the city's development from behind glass windows, never allowed to step inside. The homelessness crisis in Phoenix is not a random phenomenon but the result of deep-rooted causes, including the imbalance in housing supply, economic issues, and the lack of sufficient support services for those in need. These factors have driven thousands into homelessness, and their combination makes the problem even more complex and difficult to solve. One of the main causes of homelessness is the rapid increase in rental prices in Phoenix. According to data, rental prices in downtown Phoenix have skyrocketed, with a one-bedroom apartment potentially costing over $1,500 per month. Meanwhile, workers' incomes have not changed significantly, making it impossible for low-income families to afford housing. This creates a significant gap between supply and demand, causing the poor or low-income families to face the risk of being pushed onto the streets. The shortage of affordable housing further exacerbates the number of homeless people in the city. Although the Phoenix government has launched several programs to mitigate homelessness, these programs still do not meet the large demand from the community. Emergency shelters and affordable housing are insufficient in number and cannot provide stable accommodation for all those in need of assistance. Furthermore, emergency support programs are not developed in tandem with long-term solutions. This forces many homeless people to live in makeshift camps, with no opportunity to reintegrate into society. About 40% of the homeless in Phoenix are facing mental health issues, while 30% suffer from addiction problems, especially drugs and alcohol. Untreated mental health issues have become a barrier to the recovery of the homeless. In addition, addiction problems prevent them from maintaining stable jobs, and the lack of addiction treatment facilities and psychological support makes the situation even more severe. These issues not only affect the homeless individuals themselves, but also worsen the conditions of abandoned communities. Although Phoenix has housing support policies and poverty reduction programs, the lack of coordination and the lack of sustainability in these policies mean that homelessness remains unresolved. Urban planning policies are also insufficient to meet housing needs, especially affordable housing, leading to the shrinking of housing areas for the poor, while upscale areas and real estate projects continue to develop rapidly. Despite Phoenix having a thriving economy, many workers still work in part-time jobs or jobs without health insurance and low wages. The lack of stable job opportunities, especially for those with low education or no specialized skills, prevents them from maintaining a stable life. When they lose their jobs, they cannot afford rent, leading to homelessness. Phoenix is a city with a large number of immigrants from different regions. However, for many immigrants, especially those without legal documentation, finding stable work and housing becomes extremely difficult. The city's and country's immigration policies do not provide enough support for immigrants, leading them to become a significant part of the homeless population, living in unstable and deprived conditions. These factors not only create a complex picture of homelessness in Phoenix, but also highlight the shortcomings in current policies and support systems. Without real reforms and long-term strategies, this situation will only continue to worsen. Homeless shelters in Phoenix are currently facing severe overcrowding. These facilities cannot meet the increasing demand from the community as the number of homeless people continues to rise, especially during the hot summer months. Temporary beds have become scarce, and those in need of shelter must endure extremely harsh conditions. Instead of being a safe and cozy place, these shelters sometimes become a place of temporary survival, lacking privacy, and suffering from poor sanitary conditions. This creates a sad reality. Instead of providing real support, shelters sometimes become part of the problem. The cramped space, lack of amenities, and poor hygiene make many homeless people unwilling to enter these shelters. They choose to live on the streets, seeking makeshift shelter under bridges, on the roadside, or even on sidewalks, where they feel less monitored and can maintain some freedom. Meanwhile, the shelters, which are supposed to protect and assist the poor, make them feel isolated, abandoned, and inadequately cared for. This not only worsens the lives of the homeless, but also increases psychological deprivation. Without care, psychological support, or essential services, many feel like ghosts in their own city. They are pushed to the fringes of society, unable to access life-changing opportunities. The financial shortcomings of organizations also contribute to worsening this situation. Many shelters and support organizations lack the resources to maintain operations. Meanwhile, some organizations exploit the crisis to attract donations but fail to use those resources effectively. Some organizations have even been criticized for misusing donated funds, causing the homeless to not receive the support they deserve. Meanwhile, thousands are left to live in temporary conditions with no opportunity to find a stable home. Contrasting with the image of modern cities, where everyone can find opportunities and growth, the homelessness crisis in Phoenix reveals a grim reality. The vulnerable are left behind, struggling in the shadows of the city, without care, support, or a bright future. Phoenix has implemented some measures to address homelessness, but most of these measures only provide temporary results and do not address the root causes of the problem. One common measure is the campaign to clean up the encampments, which sometimes only pushes the homeless from one area to another, without providing real solutions for stable housing. The government has attempted to increase support for temporary housing programs, but these programs lack the ability to provide long-term solutions and cannot meet the urgent needs of the community. These policies focus primarily on cleaning areas with homeless populations, but ignore the core issue of the shortage of affordable housing and long-term support facilities. While cleaning up the encampments may help the city appear cleaner and easier to manage in terms of urban image, it does not solve the underlying causes that drive people to live on the streets. These individuals cannot find stable housing or a real home. Cleaning only creates a superficial change, while the homelessness issue remains unresolved. Another factor complicating the issue is the administrative handling of homelessness cases. The city government often uses administrative measures to address homelessness, such as ordering the eviction of homeless groups from public areas or penalizing street living. However, These measures not only fail to assist those in need, but also create a clear divide between the homeless and the support services. Such administrative handling does not improve the situation for the homeless. It only makes them feel isolated, abandoned, and unfairly treated. Meanwhile, long-term and comprehensive solutions have not been strongly implemented. Building affordable housing, creating sustainable job opportunities, and improving mental health and addiction services have not received sufficient attention. Homelessness support programs still remain temporary, lacking coordination and sustainability, preventing these individuals from breaking free from the vicious cycle of poverty and homelessness. Current solutions lack coordination and do not provide enough support to help the homeless return to normal lives. The government and community organizations need to reassess the entire homelessness issue and implement more comprehensive measures, not just temporary solutions, but a long-term strategy to change the reality. If not, the homelessness crisis in Phoenix will continue to be a pressing problem without a satisfactory solution. The homelessness situation in Phoenix is closely linked to the city's employment conditions. Despite Phoenix having a strong economy, there remains a large portion of the workforce, particularly those without degrees or specialized skills, working in unstable and low-paying jobs. These jobs are insufficient to cover daily living expenses, especially as the cost of living and rent in the city continue to rise. As a result, when these individuals face difficulties in maintaining employment, they are at risk of losing their homes and falling into homelessness. According to statistics, nearly 1 in 5 Phoenix residents work in low-wage jobs, primarily in industries such as services, retail, and jobs that do not require high qualifications. While these jobs may provide some income for workers, they do not meet basic living needs. The expenses for rent, food, and healthcare are too high relative to their incomes. When they lose their jobs or face life challenges such as illness or family issues, they no longer have the ability to maintain a stable life, making it easier for them to fall into homelessness. In addition to employment issues, another factor worsening homelessness in Phoenix is mental health and addiction. Many homeless individuals here not only struggle to maintain stable employment, but also face mental health challenges, such as anxiety, depression, and other psychological disorders. About 40% of the homeless in Phoenix are dealing with these issues, preventing them from seeking or keeping long-term jobs. Furthermore, about 30% of them suffer from addiction, particularly drugs and alcohol, which makes the situation even worse. Mental health and addiction problems not only reduce work capabilities, but also make it difficult for the homeless to overcome their current situation. The lack of adequate medical support and recovery programs has trapped them in a vicious cycle of poverty and deprivation. As the opportunity to find stable work becomes more distant, the homeless find it even harder to escape their situation. This situation also has serious consequences for the community. As the number of workers struggling to maintain stable jobs increases, the community faces growing divisions between social classes. Low-wage workers not only lack housing but also lack opportunities to rise in life, increasing inequality in society. When employment and health issues are not comprehensively addressed, homelessness becomes an inescapable issue that continues to grow more severe. Therefore, solving homelessness in Phoenix cannot just be about providing temporary housing or implementing cleanup strategies. It requires deep intervention into fundamental issues such as employment, income, and healthcare. Long-term policies are needed to help low-wage workers find stable jobs, provide mental health care services, and treat addiction to help them reintegrate into society. Only then can homelessness in Phoenix be solved comprehensively and sustainably. The homelessness issue in Phoenix is not only a problem for those directly affected, but also has serious consequences for the community and the city's economy. Areas with high concentrations of homeless people, such as downtown Phoenix and suburban areas, have become hotspots not only socially but also environmentally. The streets, parks, and public areas where homeless people live frequently face environmental pollution. Trash, waste, and lack of basic sanitation are major problems, detracting from urban aesthetics and affecting air quality as well as the health of the surrounding environment. Furthermore, the unsanitary living conditions in these areas have created an ideal environment for the spread of diseases. Homeless individuals living in makeshift camps, lacking clean water, and having no place to bathe or maintain personal hygiene are at high risk for infectious diseases such as hepatitis, skin diseases, or mosquito-borne diseases like malaria. This not only directly impacts the health of the homeless, but also poses a threat to the community, especially as outbreaks can spread rapidly in such crowded and unsanitary living conditions. The homelessness crisis also has a negative impact on Phoenix's economy, particularly on the tourism and real estate sectors, two of the city's main sources of revenue. Phoenix is known for its attractive tourist destinations and thriving commercial areas. However, as the number of homeless individuals increases, especially in central areas like downtown, tourists begin to avoid these areas. This directly affects the tourism industry, decreasing the number of visitors and the vibrancy of economic activities related to tourism. When tourists feel unsafe or uncomfortable in areas with large homeless populations, they look for alternative destinations, causing a drop in revenue from the sector. Moreover, the homelessness crisis also severely impacts the real estate industry. Areas with rampant homelessness, poor sanitation, and deteriorating security will no longer be attractive to real estate investors. These areas, despite having development potential, lose their value due to poverty and social instability. Small businesses in these areas also face declining customer numbers, particularly coffee shops, restaurants, and retail stores, when customers feel uncomfortable or unsafe visiting areas with many homeless people. Furthermore, maintaining security and protecting property becomes a burden for businesses, as they must spend more to deal with theft and property damage. With the rise of homelessness, not only do residents and businesses suffer, but the city's economy also faces significant losses. The city of Phoenix needs to fully recognize the impact of this crisis and take immediate action to address the problem effectively. This is not only a social responsibility, but also an urgent necessity to protect public health and ensure sustainable development for the city's future. Although Phoenix has implemented some policies to address homelessness, these measures are still not strong enough to tackle the root of the problem. Campaigns to clean up the homeless encampments are frequently organized. However, these campaigns are temporary solutions and do not address the underlying causes that force people to live on the streets. Cleaning up the encampments may make the city look tidier, but it does not bring any real change to the lives of the homeless. After each campaign, they are still pushed out and face the same problem of a lack of stable housing. Additionally, the Phoenix government has implemented administrative measures such as imposing fines or ordering homeless individuals to vacate public areas. However, these measures only complicate the situation, as instead of helping the homeless, they create a divide between them and the community. Homeless individuals are not provided with long-term housing solutions or basic support. The government and community organizations may offer emergency support programs, but when these solutions are not accompanied by long-term plans and close coordination, they only worsen the problem. In addition to the cleanup campaigns, another noteworthy effort has been the conversion of motels into affordable housing. However, this process has faced numerous difficulties. First, securing financial resources to renovate old hotels and turn them into suitable housing for the homeless is a major challenge. These projects require massive funding and long-term investment, which the current authorities and community organizations are unable to meet. Furthermore, disputes over site selection and lack of consensus among stakeholders have stalled the implementation of these solutions. Social activists and those concerned with homelessness argue that Phoenix's current policies are only symbolic measures and do not bring about real change in the lives of the homeless. They point out that while cleanup campaigns may create a cleaner image, they do not address the core issue of homelessness, the lack of affordable housing and the absence of comprehensive support services. Administrative measures such as fining homeless people or forcing them to vacate public spaces only make them feel more isolated, with no opportunity to reintegrate into society. To fully address homelessness in Phoenix, the city needs a comprehensive and long-term strategy that delves deeply into the root causes of the problem rather than just addressing the external symptoms. One of the most important solutions is to build more affordable housing. This will not only help meet the urgent needs of the homeless, but also create opportunities for low-income families to have stable homes. When rental prices rise too high relative to workers' incomes, building affordable housing will help reduce financial pressures on households and minimize the risk of people being pushed onto the streets. Along with building affordable housing, sustainable employment opportunities must be created for the homeless. Many homeless people in Phoenix not only lack housing, but also lack opportunities to reintegrate into the workforce. To help them escape homelessness, creating vocational training programs, job placement support, and stable employment opportunities is essential. These programs not only provide them with additional income, but also help them rebuild their confidence and sense of independence, thereby reducing dependence on social services. An essential component of the long-term strategy to solve homelessness is improving mental health and addiction recovery services. Many homeless individuals in Phoenix are facing serious mental health issues, such as depression, anxiety, and other psychological disorders. If these issues are not treated in a timely manner, homeless individuals will find it very difficult to escape their current situation. Improving and expanding mental health services will ensure that these individuals receive the necessary support to recover and reintegrate into society. Additionally, addiction recovery is an integral part of the reintegration process. Many homeless people struggle with addiction, especially to drugs and alcohol, preventing them from maintaining stable jobs and improving their lives. Addiction recovery programs, offering treatment therapies and psychological support, will give them the opportunity to turn their lives around and rebuild their futures. The government and community organizations need to work closely together to develop housing transition programs, helping the homeless move from temporary shelters into stable apartments, and providing effective recovery models. A continuous support system, from temporary shelters to long-term life stabilization, is necessary to ensure that the homeless can maintain long-term stability. These programs require close coordination between government agencies, nonprofit organizations, businesses, and communities to ensure sustainability and effectiveness. Finally, this strategy must be implemented with long-term commitment and stable financial resources. Phoenix needs to mobilize the participation of both the community and organizations to create a broad support network, helping the homeless not only find housing but also have the opportunity to rebuild their lives. When these elements are combined, Phoenix will be able to build a more sustainable and equitable model for all members of society, addressing homelessness at its core and creating a stable and developed city for everyone. The homelessness crisis in Phoenix is not just a social issue. It is also a challenge to the humanistic values of the community. Each homeless person is an individual who has lost their home, their right to live, and their dignity. Each tent camp, each street corner where they struggle, is a vivid testament to the failure of the social system, where we have not ensured that everyone has the opportunity to live in conditions worthy of their dignity. This situation not only directly affects the homeless, but also creates a negative impact on society at large, weakening trust in fairness and community concern. We cannot continue to remain indifferent to this situation. Everyone, from the community to the government, can contribute to creating change. We need to stand up and take action to help the homeless in Phoenix and build a more just and humane society. This is our responsibility, not just the responsibility of the government, but of all of us. Remember, solving the homelessness crisis is not just a matter for the government, but for each and every one of us. We can change, and it starts with taking this issue seriously and acting today. When we no longer stand on the sidelines but join together, Phoenix can become a city not only economically prosperous, but also humane, where everyone can live with dignity and equal opportunity.